Hello and welcome to the Qitana Ravel. Eat some food, turn on tank stance, and let's go. Right off the bat, we start this dungeon with a mini boss. And this boss is pretty easy. It's mostly tank and spank. The only thing you have to do here is watch the owls on the outside of this little battle arena. Once the eyes glow, that indicates that that lane that you're standing in is going to be attacked with an AoE attack. In order to dodge it, you just stand behind a wall that is within that lane, and you won't take any damage. That's it, couldn't be easier. After the mini boss is dead, you can go ahead and pop sprint, and we're going to go into our first pull. For this pack right here, use an AoE attack to pick up aggro. For the patrol, used a ranged attack to get the fourth mob. And for the last pack, go ahead and use a distance closing ability followed by an AoE attack. This will put a ton of stuff on you, and it gets very dangerous here. There is also a patrol that's off to the right side of the screen, so once that comes in, it will probably automatically go on you since you're going to be spamming your AoE abilities anyway. For this fight, you want to use all of your cooldowns. So blow everything that you have, all of your defensive abilities, use everything. And also keep your finger over your oh shit button. That's what I call it. And I just used it right there. As you can see, my health got a little bit low, and I used my ability that stops damage from coming in. Every tanking class or tanking job has their own ability where you can stop the damage from coming in, and just make sure you have your finger over that button for this fight because you might need it. That's about it for this one. Once you're done with this pull, you can go on to the next pull, which is just another one of those mini bosses. So you can go ahead and start the mini boss fight, and it's pretty much the same as the first one. The owls on the outside will glow, their eyes will glow, and that will indicate where an attack is going to come from. Once you see what lane is going to be hit by that attack, just go ahead and hide behind one of those walls to dodge the damage. This one's a little bit trickier than the other one. You will have to move from one side of the wall to the other, but just keep an eye on where those attacks are coming from and stand behind the wall accordingly. And then once you're done with this pull, we move on to the first boss. So we are about 4 minutes into this dungeon. We're at the first boss. We're making great time here. Go ahead and charge into the boss, turn him around, and begin your single target rotation. This boss only does two things. He will slam the ground on one side of him, and then there's also a glowing eye mechanic, very similar to the mini bosses that we just saw that make half of the room unsafe. So we'll go through those now. So the statue begins emitting an eerie glow, and you can see that the statue on the left side of the dungeon, or I guess the west side of the dungeon, is glowing. That means that side, or I'm sorry, not the dungeon, the play area, the battle area, is unsafe. Don't stand there. The next one is heat up, and you can see his shoulder begins to glow and all this smoke comes out of it. That means he is going to deal damage on that side of his body, and he will rotate before he does that as well. So you have to pay attention to what arm is going to slam, and then you have to pay attention to which direction he's going to rotate and stand on the opposite side. So here's another good example where his right shoulder is glowing and the smoke is coming out, and he is going to roar, rotate, and now you have to get on the opposite side. You will also combine that mechanic with the glowing statues in the back. So what will happen is that only a quarter of this circle will be safe once you get toward the end of the fight. And we'll go over that last part now. So here he begins to heating up his left arm, meaning that is not safe. So we're going to get on his right side, and then the right side of the play area is going to be unsafe, indicated by the glowing statue. So the place that is safe is right there on where I was standing, basically. So you have to combine the two mechanics of the arm that's going to slam as well as the half of the play area that is going to take damage to find the safe location. Moving on to the next pull, I will wall to wall this If you're not confident in your healer, then don't. You can just fight these bats right here. But I'm going to pick up aggro on all of the bats with a AoE attack. I'm going to hit sprint, and then I'm going to use a distance closing ability for these next 3. Then once I come to this part, I'm only going to use 2 defensive abilities. I'm going to use reprisal and one of my role or one of my job abilities. And the reason why is because even though there's a lot of stuff here, I'm going to try to save Rampart and my other abilities for the next pull, because the next pull is actually bigger than this one, and I don't want to blow everything now. If you do, I mean, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's just going to add a little bit of time to your run. Not much, you know, a minute or 2. But that's how I like to handle this pull. And also, you'll notice I did not use arm's length there, because the distance between when you pull the bats and when you get to this iguana looking thing is not that far. But on the next pull, it is a little bit further, which I'll show you here. The next pull starts out with these 2 alligators. I'm going to use a ranged attack, provoke, and then another ranged attack on the anaconda. Now I'm not going to sprint here because I don't want to lose my team. I noticed that they're a little far behind, but I did use arm's length, and then I will pull down to the middle of this corridor, use an AoE attack to pick up all of the bats that are here, and then I'm going to go all the way to the wall and pull the last 2 iguanas. Now this is a ton of stuff, which is why you need to use some of your cooldowns here. I use Rampart, one of my class abilities, and I start to use as many of my damage reduction abilities as I can. I start using block, I start using all these different things. It ends up not being enough because my oh shit button is on cooldown. You can see it's got about 15 seconds left there, and I needed it here, and things don't go well. I actually end up dying. So our healer swift casts Resurrect on me, and now we're in full panic mode. And it's good for you to see this because this is what you have to do. The first thing I do is I use a distance closing ability to get back in there because my team is running away, and then I start using AoE attacks to pick up aggro. As you can see, looking at the enemy list, you're seeing all things except red. You're seeing yellow, you're seeing green, you're seeing orange. That's not good. So we're going to use the enemy list specifically and I'm going to use my enmity generating abilities to get aggro back on everything. So I click one enemy on the enemy list, and then I throw my shield or whatever the ability you have is, and then I click the next one, and then I use that ranged attack that generates the enmity, etc. And that worked. We were able to recover here, so I'm kind of glad that that happened, so you can see what happens when things don't go well and what you have to do to try to recover. So we did end up recovering here. I was able to get aggro, and the healer was able to keep everyone alive while I did that. So very cool to see. And with that, we are on to the second boss, which is this big old bat thing. To begin the boss fight, go ahead and charge in, turn him around, and then begin your single target rotation. This boss has a couple of mechanics. There's some AoE stuff that you have to dodge, but that should all be, at this point, second nature. I shouldn't have to tell you to dodge AoEs at this level. The only other thing that's weird are the pillars that fall down from the ceiling. Once the pillars fall down from the ceiling, we will go over how to navigate that mechanic. So the pillars have fallen down from the ceiling, and what happens is the bat is going to roar, and the pillars are going to fall in some random direction. You don't know where they're going to fall. There is no indicator that says where they're going to fall. So you actually have to look at the pillars as they fall and don't stand underneath them. This is very easy if you just stand by the base of the pillar, and then as soon as you see what direction it's falling in, just don't go in that direction. Go anywhere else beside it and it won't fall on you. Obviously, the further away you are, the harder it becomes because there's more area for it to hit you. There's more area, you know, whatever. You get it, right? Just minimize the amount of space that these can hit you with. So as you can see here, I'm going to position myself right at the base of this pillar. And I only have to worry about this one because the other ones are too short. It falls north, it fell straight, I went right. That's really it. Just look at which direction the pillars are falling in and don't stand in that direction. There's in Gold Saucer, there's kind of a gate that's like this. It's not a gate. It is a gate. It's the Slice is Right, I believe, where the big ninja guy slices down all the bamboo shoots and you have to figure out which direction they're going to fall and you can't get hit by them. Yeah, it's kind of the same sort of flavor here. Just look at the pillars and don't get hit by them. And that's really all you have to do on this boss fight. With the second boss down, we can now move into the third and final section of this dungeon, which is now going to take us outside. So this is actually very critical. You don't want to mess this up, but you do have to jump 360 off of these two waterfalls. So that's the first one, jump 360 off of the second one. This is critical. If you don't do that, you're just going to die and you're going to wipe, so make sure you jump 360. After that, go ahead and pick up aggro on the first 3 mobs using an AoE ability. Use Arm's Length. Pick up aggro on the ranged mob using your ranged ability. Charge into the next pack and then use an AoE ability to pick up aggro on those. Now here, I am going to use 3, maybe 4 of my defensive cooldowns because again, there's a ton of stuff that is wailing on you here. So use your defensive abilities because the next pull after this, it's not that bad. This one is a little bit worse. So do the best that you can to reduce as much damage as possible. You can be a little bit heavy on the cooldown usage, but try to avoid the AoEs whenever you can. Keep on spamming your AoE abilities. This way you never lose aggro, and that's how you handle this pull. Once these guys are dead, these gorillas are going to bust through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man. Oh yeah! You're going to pick up aggro on those 2 gorillas, and then you're going to use your ranged attack to pick up aggro on that ranged mob. There's going to be one more pack here, and we're going to pull the entire pack with just 1 ranged attack, and then we're going to back up way over here to this tree trunk. We're not going to fight in that nice square over there, and the reason why is because when you're fighting in that square, these gorillas are going to start chucking rocks at you, whereas if you're over here, there's only like 1 that can really reach you. And if you really want, you can back this up a little bit further, but coming back here, it's a little bit of a trick. It makes the fight a little easier, I think. So yeah, do that. Keep an eye on your health, and as you can see, I did have to use my oh shit ability right there. And that did end up saving this pull. There's a lot of stuff here, so if you're not confident in your healer, again, on the previous pull, you don't have to use all of your cooldowns. You can save some for this pull as well, but fight back here. That's the content that you're subscribed for right now. That's the trick. And that is the last pull of this dungeon. We're now done and heading on to the final boss. So here we are at the final boss. Make sure that your team is with you and that everyone has slid down that trunk. As you can see, we did have 1 player that we were waiting on. Now that the party is here, we can go ahead and start the boss fight. Use your distance closing ability, turn the boss around, and begin your single target rotation. We'll be going through all of the mechanics as they happen. Rend, which was just cast a moment ago, is a tank buster. Use Rampart if you have it up to reduce the amount of damage that you take there. Hound Out of Heaven is going to be, he randomly targets someone and just charges them. He'll go right back on you. Just make sure after he does his attack, just make sure you're facing him outside is all you really have to do. That was an AoE ability. Nothing you can do about that. That's really more for the healer. Viper Poison, he is going to select certain areas of the battle arena, and he's going to cover that in a pool of poison. He will then jump to the north end of the arena, cast Inhale, which will suck everybody into his location no matter where you are, and then there is going to be a knockback effect that will blow you in the direction of those arrows. What you want to do is position yourself in between the 2 puddles so you don't end up in a puddle or go through a puddle. After that, use your distance closing ability to get back on the boss and point him toward the outside of the play area again. Pretty simple mechanic here. It's just the pointer. Don't stand, with other people so they don't take any damage. And try the best that you can when he's in this position to point him outside. As you can see, I tried to get on top of him to get him to go, point south, but he wouldn't do it. So do the best that you can. With this tether ability, he is going to rush one of the players. That's really for the healer to make sure that he heals the player that took the damage. Really not a whole lot going on there. Here comes Viper Poison again. He's going to cast his puddles of poison, And there's also going to be someone randomly targeted with the poison as well, so that's going to make things a little bit different. That player put it on the outside of the play area. That's where John put it, and that's great. So now we don't have to worry about it. So it looks the exact same as the first one, right? It's supposed to be a little bit different, but it's basically the same. He jumps to the north, sucks everybody in, blows everybody away. Just don't get blown into a puddle, or don't get blown through a puddle. And then once it's done, use a distance closing ability and point him back toward the outside of the play area. And that's it. At this point, it's a recycle bin. There's nothing else that this boss is going to do, so now you just have to go and do it. Oh, the last thing, there is a stack mechanic here. I did forget about that, but honestly, a stack mechanic, you shouldn't have to be told what to do with a stack mechanic at this point. As soon as you hear that siren and you see those green arrows, group up. And that is going to do it for the Qitana Ravel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found the video helpful and useful. If you didn't, I'm sorry. I tried my best. Maybe there's another video on the channel that will be better for you. That is going to do it. We will see you in the next one. Bye!